In this episode, we're going to explore COVID-19 and is it a sign from the book of Revelation about the end times? And the answer is no. So, unprecedented. Is it really unprecedented that a pandemic has happened? I hear different media sources say that COVID-19 is unprecedented, that something like this has never happened before. That is the definition of unprecedented, that it has never happened before. Is this actually true? And it's not true. It's a bit of hyperbole to say that it's unprecedented. COVID-19 or any sort of pandemic, these things have happened. And we see this all throughout history, that these things happen. Here are the list of epidemics and pandemics recorded throughout history. Now, there's obviously more that have happened, but these are the only ones that have been recorded. So, saddle up your donkey. Yeah, I hope you have a big bowl of popcorn and a nice comfy chair because this is going to take a while. The first recorded outbreak was the Plague of Athens in the year 429 BC. There was another epidemic in Greece in the year 412 BC. There were plagues in the Roman Empire in the year 165. There was another plague in the Roman Empire in the year 250 to 266. In 541 to 542, there was the plague of Justin. 664 to 689 AD, there was another plague in the British Isles. In the years 735 to 737, there was the Japanese smallpox epidemic. In the year 746 to 747, there was another plague that hit the Byzantine Empire, which would be the old Roman Empire. In the year 1331, we get the big one that we should all remember from history class of the Black One that was the estimate. Nobody knows for sure because they didn't necessarily keep tons of records on this, but nor have the ability. But they guesstimate anywhere between 75 to 200 million people died. And so that was by far the biggest. That was a big one. In the year 1485 to 1551, there are many more. They called it the 1420 smallpox epidemic. There was another plague that hit Massachusetts in 1886, So, unprecedented. Is it really unprecedented that a pandemic has happened? And I suggest no. And I think this idea that nothing like this has ever been seen before type of mentality people are having, or is bleeding into the idea that this must be a sign from Revelation. No one's ever seen something like this. While maybe that's true for people who are alive today, although there probably is some people who were around for the Spanish flu of 1918. But you're right, for most people's idea of what they think a sickness is normally like, this is probably a brand new thing to have a huge pandemic happen, because most of us weren't alive in 1918. However, it's not really that new if you're looking at things from the whole scope of history. From the whole scope of history, this is something that is normal and is predictable. This is something that's going to happen. It's inevitable. You can't get through a century without having something like this happen. It just has never happened throughout all of human history. In fact, the real unprecedented thing would be to have a century where this didn't happen. That would be a really bizarre thing. However, to have a pandemic like COVID-19 is nothing really that new. It's just new to us who are alive, and it has to do with because our human lifespans are so short that we really don't see things in the right perspective because we only have such a small window of life that we live, and we base a lot of what we know and what we think on our tiny view of our own personal life. And so I think this helps stir up this idea that this is something new and it must be from then Revelation. It must be in there. And so we start reading the book of Revelation, and it talks about a lot of crazy world-changing events, and you're thinking, this is a world-changing event. So it must be the sign pointed to in the book of Revelation. Look at what's happening. Look how much it's changed our lives. Well, it has changed our lives. It isn't unprecedented. It isn't this new thing. And that shouldn't be what then interprets the book of Revelation. We see something new, and so we take that new thing and then we insert it into the Bible. And now we're going to make the Bible say what we want. And so now our interpretation's on a feedback loop. I think this thing, so therefore the Bible must think this thing too, and it's now confirming my belief, and so it just keeps going back around and around and around. And this really has to do with poor Bible studying skills, but also a poor view of history. I think there's just a weak teaching and education of history today that helps build these types of views about things, that this is a new thing, or we just succeeded in this, and that's never been done before, when it actually has been done before. There's a lot of great things that have been done in the past. There's a lot of pandemics. There's a lot of catastrophes. There's all kinds of things that have happened in the past. And there really isn't a lot of new things under the sun. And so we shouldn't take this crisis event, which happens. I mean, this shouldn't surprise us as Christians, especially from a Christian worldview where you know that the world is fallen. If the world is fallen, as the Bible clearly teaches us, then we should expect these types of catastrophes. These shouldn't be things that blow us away. We should know that they're going to happen. And we should have a mentality that prepares us for these things when they happen, that we aren't just completely destroyed by, oh man, how could this ever happen? We live on planet Earth. Planet Earth is a fallen place and has been for thousands of years. And these types of things like natural disasters, pandemics, wars, these things happen and will continue to happen. You cannot get through a century without these things happening. Yeah, we should be watching the signs of the times. That's a true statement. However, this needs to be a sign. Signs are things like the Nile River turning into blood. That's a sign. Signs are things like a huge storm destroying all the food production in the world. That would be a sign. Things that would be on a magnitude like have never been seen, those are signs. When it rains outside, we don't think, oh my goodness, this is a sign from the book of Revelation. Because it rains, that's what happens, that's normal. We don't even look at wars that way. When we have a war in Afghanistan or in Iraq, we don't think, oh no, there's a war happening. This is going to be the end of the world. This is a sign of the times. Because wars happen all the time. There's wars happening right now. It's something that just happens throughout all of history. Normal things aren't the signs. It's the really bizarre, supernatural things that are to grab our attention as signs. And so as Christians, we shouldn't use the things that we see around us, the things that are current, as the interpretive force in our study of Scripture. We need to look at things from a big picture view, from a transcendent view of all of time, and not just what's happening right now.
Hey everybody, my name is Mike. I'm the producer of the Shepherd's Life videos, and so if you like this content and you want to see more of it, please subscribe and hit the bell below for more content. Thanks and have a good day.